every exercise that I do, I know how my body's supposed to move, so I make it move that way, but it feels crooked.
Right. But it's wrong.
And then I watch the video. And I'm like, my reps are perfect, literally perfect. But I feel like I have one foot in the top corner of the platform and the other foot in the bottom corner of the platform. And I'm doing like a weird split squat fucking sideways thing. That's how it feels. And then I watch the video and I'm like, perfect hack squat.
Yeah.
I spotted a guy today that actually did that. This guy was like, hey, you mind just spot me for a couple reps on bench? And I was like, sure. I mean, it wasn't like too much weight. I wasn't thinking he was going to hurt himself. But all of a sudden, his left leg was in the air, and he's sliding around. I'm like, oh fuck, what are you doing? I literally go, put your feet down.
So I always harp on clients about that. I'm like, your body, the only thing moving should be what you're training. Like, I don't want to see your feet dancing around when you're doing bench press, and I don't want to see fucking wiggly. I don't want to see your arms up on one rep of the hack and then down on one rep of the hack and then on the pads and then on the handles. Like, just fucking set it up.
Yeah.
Anyways,
don't unrack it.
We are.
It was actually awkward to see. And then the best part was they have a cardio thing that's over top. And Nikki was doing the step mill, and she comes down. She goes, "That fucking guy you spotted on the bench, that was a mess."
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
That's how bad it was. You saw it from up there.
Bad enough that when other people in the gym give you a head nod like a minute later, you look over and they're like, "That was
rough."
It was. Yeah. I'm not kidding you. I've never seen anything like it. It wasn't like he slightly moved. His leg literally came up above the bench at one point, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
So we're totally recording, right, Scott?
We are rolling
make it into the episode.
If you wanted to, it shall.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I guess this is episode 100, you guys.
Wow.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of It's Just Bodybuilding with Big Ron Partlow and my co-host Dusty Hanshaw. How you doing, Dusty?
Awesome. I'm excited that we finally got this thing going. Holy shit! I'm glad I was here for double digits.
That's why I think Scott should stick around for a bit, because episode 100, Scott, you've been a big part of this.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you very much.
Agree.
My pleasure.
But thanks very much for putting up with us. And me and Dusty have to admit that we do almost no work for this show. Well, Dusty may be absolutely no work, but almost.
I don't even watch it.
Okay, Dusty does no work. I do a little tiny bit of work.
Well,
and
I'll tell you what, though.
Dusty can't even stick around for the little tribute I was giving him. He has to like go off and talk to his.
I left. Yeah. Well, I had to.
He's like
I'm electrocuting children. It's no big deal. That's the story of my life.
I will tell you guys.
I think it's also the key that the episodes where you finally started putting these clips in.
Yes.
Did you notice how many people are like, "Why isn't Scott just on the show?" I was like,
I saw that. I'm gonna clue everybody in for a second here. So, over the last 6 years, I've recorded with a lot of different people, and I want to give both of you props because you guys are, if you're on time, number one. When we make plans, you follow those plans. A lot of times, you make plans with a pro bodybuilder. It has to be like 3 days or less, or else they'll totally forget about it. And then 1:30 actually is like 2:45. So we're on. You guys are on the money. There is that.
Well, we appreciate that. We sort of my mindset is that this is such an amazing deal for me that all I have to do is kind of just show up, which has kind of been every job I've ever had to be.
I was gonna say that sounds a lot like my entire life. I'm like, oh, that's not how it is for everyone.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. See, the way I did college was I did none of the work and I just showed up and presented.
Nice.
And the group
but you're a good presenter, though.
So that's how I got through life, is just talking my way through shit. So thanks for giving me another avenue to do that, Scott.
My pleasure.
Brushed up his skills.
Awesome.
I was digging
episode
back
100. Yeah.
I want to see. I'll find it. I'll get back to you guys. I'll find it. I want to see how long we've been doing this show for, because I don't even know it.
You have to look on my page, remember? Because we did the first episode on mine. Like we did 3 or 4.
Well, episode 6 with Jose Raymond, that was September 18th, 2019 that came out. Do you realize how much stuff has happened since then?
Yeah.
I died.
We
started burning the American country.
Yeah, and the COVID, the entire COVID thing happened.
Yeah,
which also COVID's a weird thing. It sometimes it doesn't seem like it's been a year and a half. Sometimes it seems like it's only been a few months we've been doing this, but then you sit and realize you're like, oh wow, it just got normal.
Yeah,
it was weird. The whole Trump was president when we started the show.
Yeah,
we did it before the entire election. We saw the entire election, the entire 1 year bullshit run all the way in. We saw the whole thing. We saw, what else did we see?
Brandon Curry Brandon Curry wasn't even Mr. Olympia yet.
We got we had 3 Olympians since then. 3.
Yeah, Roden was the champ.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. It's awesome. It's been a lot of fun, and the fact that it just flew by too, and it hasn't been like a labor, like, oh my god, 100 episodes, is a testament to it's just fun. Like, we're just trying to have fun. We're not. People ask us what are your plans for the show? And it's like, well, Dusty and I just kind of enjoy doing it, and we enjoy that we connect with a lot of people, and people like you guys all message us and tell us what bits were funny or maybe helped you or whatever. I mean, we get those sorts of emails all the time, and that's what makes it worthwhile to me. Is I really like the engagement, and I hope that we can maybe just make people think. Maybe it's about some world topic we accidentally talk about for too long, or maybe it's an actual bodybuilding tip where they fix their leg workouts and they're like, fuck, my leg workouts are way better. I love it when people come up to me and they're like, I don't have a coach or anything, but I just watch your show all the time.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 years, I've put on 20 pounds. And in the 5 years before that, I didn't gain a single pound, stuff like that.
Right.
They're like, I didn't gain a single pound for 2 years, started watching your podcast, and I put on 20 pounds in a year. And I'm like, oh, fuck. That's the awesome. Because most guys are never going to turn pro or win shit. Right. But adding muscle is the bottom line. That's why a lot of people train the way we train and want to live the lifestyle. They just want to change their bodies and, add some muscle, lose some fat. And so when people come up and say that they've done that, I'm like, fuck, that's really cool.
Yeah, you guys have influenced a lot of people as far as progressive overload goes. I feel like a lot of people started lifting heavier weights after this podcast came on. I saw that evolution because I saw everybody who listened and talked about the shows before that, and then I've seen the evolution since. A lot more PPL, DC,
yeah,
a lot more.
But I also think I've because I used to watch the show. I don't watch it anymore. I kind of annoy myself, but I used to watch it just. I kind of used to watch it because I was trying to, I thought, well, it might help us be better.
Yeah.
Following a topic, guiding a guest along, just watching your own interview skills. But I also found that it gave me a certain level of anxiety because I would think, oh, fuck, I got to start doing that thing with my fucking ear, or I got to stop,
what thing?
Whatever.
With your ear?
Saying I'm just joking. Maybe you're always adjusting your.
Now I'm going to be watching his ear the entire episode.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Looking for the ear,
or maybe you got to stop. You have a bad habit of maybe interrupting someone when they do this, or just sort of being so critical of yourself. So I don't watch it anymore, but I do notice that we haven't just pushed progressive overload because we've had the ability with the amount of time we're on the air, we've had the ability to also get the nuances of it.
Yes.
And
that's what makes overload truly progressive, is it's got to be correct.
How can you actually make it work? Because it's not just about adding pounds every week, because we all know that isn't really how it goes. That's the idea.
Yeah.
But it's harder than that. And there's a lot of other stuff that goes with it. I always say you're surfing a curve, it's like you're a surfer trying to stay on a wave forever. And you're going to go, whoa, shit, you're going to get up too high and you're going to flat bottom up. You got to, try to stay on there. So there's a lot of other things that go with it, prevention of injury.
I was taught that it was
body fat.
Dante pushed it was when I was first starting, it was peaks and valleys. And as long as your valleys are higher than they used to be and your peaks are higher than they used to be, you're progressing. But it's not always up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that made it really easy for me, because you look back even when you're cleaning out or you're doing some sort of a, intentionally backing down, and you're like, oh, actually, I remember when this was a working set.
Yeah.
You have a few of those moments. Right now I'm back to those being working sets, which is tricky, but whatever.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you too, guys, what was funny is so I've been here for, I think 3 weeks. I don't really keep track of time. And I literally was like, no one knows me here. It's great. Like, I'd go to the gym. No one talks to me.
A lot can happen in 3 weeks, right, Dusty?
Well, no. So then what ended up happening was, I could be asleep. All of a sudden now, what it is people don't come talk to you during your workouts. I've had many people now, like I'll be in a locker room or whatever, and they're like, hey, man, it's just great to see you in here. And I'm like, and then next thing you know, they're like, oh, yeah, I've been listening to the show for 2 years. I'm like,
that's cool.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I just assumed I was invisible in here, which was awesome. But yeah, I've had like probably 4 or 5 people tell me that they watch the show here. And I'm like, oh, shit. I had no idea you even knew who I was, let alone listen to the show. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I love hearing from people that listen to the show. And sometimes it's like when Paul Lozon stopped by the gym to say hi. Mm-hmm. It was funny because there was a guy in the gym at the time, one of the guys that went up to him. He's like a new member that I had never had the chance to speak to yet. So I didn't know that he watched the show.
Right.
But I found out because he came up to Paul and he was like, hey, I really loved the episode when you were on.
Yeah.
And so like, because he obviously knew him. He obviously watches Bro Chat as well because he was like a huge fan. But he came up and he mentioned the episode. He's like, yeah, I loved when you were on the show with Ron. And so it was just funny that, there's a lot of people around us and we don't know they watch the show.
Yeah.
Because they haven't said anything. But so it's cool when people do,
Oh, sure.
Episode 100. So we're going to do an intro or are we past that?
I think we
like, share, subscribe.
There's that.
The like, share, bell. Subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment, tell your friends. Don't forget that stuff. It's very important. The algorithms, Scott.
I live my life learning about the algorithm every day.
My whole life is a study of algorithms.
Yep, exactly.
That's all that matters in my life anymore.
So we got to touch on a couple things. I wanted to give Dusty an opportunity. Sorry to put you on the spot here, but Jose and I kind of talked about John last week briefly, and you weren't here to chat, and I just wanted to just say how did you handle it? How did it go for you?
Well, what was crazy is a friend of ours actually texted me and he was like, is it true about John? And I'm like, and I mean, here's one thing I love is when someone says a name like John that everybody has, you immediately go to the highest on the list in your mind. Cause I don't and I was like, what happened to John? So I said, what? And he was like, oh, well, Nick Trigilli put up a thing and said he had died. And I was like, that's Nick Trigilli. Let me immediately reach out. So I text Dante immediately. At this point, I was like, no. I text Dante. He gave me he got on. He actually hadn't heard yet either. I was so pissed because I'm always the asshole that says the things nobody wants to say. It's no one's spot, in my opinion, but the family to release that information. Yeah. I could have known that for a year and never said a word to anybody just because you're not supposed to, and everyone knows that. I was irritated. First, obviously sad. Second, irritated because it wasn't time yet. That should be released when someone is ready that's really, really that's in it. That was leaked to him by someone who shouldn't have said anything, and then he took it public. So I know for a lot of people listening to this, they're gonna say, well, that's no big deal because it happened. But I've been in that position. It is a big deal. You want to be able to control when it goes out. My family knew I was in a coma for weeks before they said anything.
So wait a minute. I think I'm missing something. I didn't realize
Nick Trigili was the first person to make it public, and he was told by someone who knew in confidence. And I don't know who that was, but someone tossed it to him, and of course it went up immediately because that is the name of the game of, I guess I'll call it news. Like everyone wants to be first, which is retarded. Yeah. So that was just disappointing. But as far as what matters, I think the only thing I can really say, and it's already been said by a million people, but John is a guy who I wondered how he got it all done in a day. And what I mean is, like, as much as I joke, I'm extremely busy. I'm terrible about checking up on close friends, about real life. This guy would just randomly message everyone I know, could say a story when John would reach out to them. I mean, he was one of the first people to reach out to me. It's funny because I had so many messages I couldn't even answer them all, but he was one of the first. And he also followed up with me after our episode and, offered just advice as someone who had been in my position. And the same thing in all the bodybuilding. He was also someone who never needed credit. Like I'd post something sometimes and it would hit a mark with him. And instead of like writing a long thing that puts attention to him, he would message me. I saw what you put up there and give great advice, but it was like he avoided getting credit half the time, which I think in this world and even in myself, like I don't do that very well at all. Like reaching out to people, staying in touch. He's fantastic. And it was funny. I did the same thing that I'm sure you guys did, where for the first day I wasn't ready to absorb it. So I was just reading what people put up and I'm like, we all have the same story. Like the guy was that good to every person that he crossed paths with. And he's one of the few people in the world that, not because he didn't have a stance on things, but somehow he had a way of delivering his opinion in a way that no one had anything bad to say. And I know they always say, well, if no one has anything bad to say about you, you're not doing anything. I'm like, John impacted a ton of people. It was just how he did it.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't not respect him. I mean, even other people in the industry, Lane Norton, like big names who are very stuck in their ways, would say, they'd even say, like, we didn't always agree, but this man was, whatever, you know what I mean, a compliment. So it was rough to see. And I think the only thing that I tried to take away is just stealing some of what he's doing, what he was doing and doing better at it. And the other thing that I'm going to start doing publicly that it hit me afterwards was, as I was reading all these things, I said, we as people need to be better at telling the story of a John Meadows while he's still alive. Like there's a lot of that. It always happens after the fact. And it's like, it's something that I'm going to mentally make sure I'm doing better, because I've got a lot of people that have my back and have done amazing things for me that are still alive. It's a good time to say it now. It's great in hindsight, and I'm sure we've all told John, but it is nice if you'd read that on the regular to be like, wow, because I used to have people that would call me. I stopped doing one-off programs. I sent them all to him. I'm like, go to John, and I've done it too. So trust me, it's phenomenal, So it was rough. I don't think it's going to sink in completely to me until we go to the big shows and I don't see him, because we would always catch up. He's just that guy that would make his rounds and make sure he touched base with everybody. And it's going to be weird not to be able to do that anymore. So
yeah,
rough.
Yeah, you're right about him. You're right about him, like doing stuff for free with no credit. Like I remember I was talking to him about diet, just chatting about contest dieting and, strategy and stuff. And I mentioned that my knee was really bad. And this was back when I was still competing, right? And I hadn't torn my quad yet, but my knee was bad. And I was just saying how I was, trying to figure out how to train around it. And he just like right away said, oh, well, I'm going to send you some programs. Let me send you some leg days. I'm going to send you some leg days. They'll be like, I'll send them to you. And he sent me like 2 emails. Each email had a couple of different leg days on it.
No kidding.
Know what I mean? And he's just like, give these a try. Cause like I kind of wrote these for people that, where their knees are a little shot.
Yeah.
So it was like, and so it was awesome because, it's so nice. And you know how this is, Dusty and Scott, you both know how this is. When you have a ton of knowledge in your head but you don't really want to like, oh, I got to experiment from scratch now and figure out what works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're like, fuck, I'll just do these leg workouts because John's already like written them, given them to people, heard feedback, done them himself. You know what I mean? So I trust them. Like when they come from someone like him, you're like, oh, I'll just do these.
Yeah, I guess I would blink. Yeah, but done.
Yeah, it's like when you hire Chris to do your diet. You're like, okay, let's go. And so it was awesome. And they helped me out. And I used those leg days all through my prep that year so that I could train. And I mean, it's just stuff I still carry with me too, like little techniques and stuff that I still use like all the time. So just stuff like that. And like, I never gave him any money and he never asked for anything and he just sent him to me. So he's just a great guy. So
yeah, no, that was my same experience when I did hire him. I reached out at one point and just said, hey, I need to do something different and I don't want to think because I will default back to what I always do and I'm trying to get away from myself. So, and he was like, oh, let me put some things together. But he actually wrote them out for me. And I was like, all right, well, let me pay you. And he was like, no, don't worry about it. I said, John, I have money. Let me pay you. And he was like, no. And he trained me for like 3 months. I mean, like literally wanted feedback to the point that I finally was like, John, I have to pay you. Like this is starting to feel like way, way wrong. And he was like, I don't want you to. And I mean, I literally never gave him $1. I was like, wow. And
was that was training stuff? That was training stuff?
But yeah, but I mean, it was one of those things where it's not like he just sent me something he had in his stock. He would email me, how did legs go today?
Huh.
And I'm like, how do you have time for this? Like, I mean, I know how busy you are. And I think he may have still been working back then, like at the bank.
Yeah.
So I just remember thinking like, but you know what it is you have some people like him, and Dante did this to me one time, and I'm going to tell a story that might get me in trouble, but whatever. Dante is always a giver as well. And one time we all went to dinner and I snuck off and paid the bill. And I was like, for once in my life, I'm going to get Dante something. And it was funny because when the waiter came and he was going to grab the tab, he was like, oh, it's done. Dante like pulled me aside when we were done and he's like, I appreciate that. Please don't ever do it again. It was like he wants, like, that's his thing. And so I realized with John, if a guy tells you 5 times he doesn't want money, then you just say thank you because that's what he wants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was difficult because the amount of time he was investing, I'm like, I do this for a living too. It's time consuming. I mean, I got to get paid. Like,
I'm glad I did buy one of his programs once.
Right.
And it was because I thought, fuck, I want that. That'd be cool to have. I just want to read that. And it was when he had his, what year did he turn pro? 2015, same year as me.
15,
so he had his entire contest log for that show, every single gram of food, every single thing that he did in a file, every workout, everything. And that's awesome. And that's what I bought off of him.
Wow.
So I have his entire 2016 prep log, complete, absolutely fucking everything. That's cool. It was like cool to read because, man, he dieted hard. Oh, fuck.
2 grams of sugar-free ketchup.
I'll tell you something, man. That was because I can't remember what weight he had to be. I don't remember, but he was fucking peeled, obviously, like he always was. But he would go low, man. Like the egg whites and sugar-free ketchup ain't no joke.
Yeah.
That's like he was basically.
I remember those. I loved when he put that stuff out because that was also during the prime of metabolic damage, and everyone thought that you could just fuck up your metabolism with 3 low days. And I'm like, well, he ate 700 calories for a month.
And some of the stuff was like really interesting, like the chest and shoulder day. The one day was a little more chest and the other day was a little more shoulder. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it was like chest and shoulders twice a week. So one day was more of a chest day. And like basically on the one that was more of a chest day, there was basically just seated side laterals.
Right.
Like that was it. And then on the other day was like the presses and stuff. And then basically just like 2 chest exercises. So there were certain things I'm like, fuck, that doesn't look like much volume. But, you know, the weekly accumulation and everything, and the workouts were fun. I did the workouts just to try them. I did like 3 weeks straight of the workouts just to try the rotation. And it was really fun. It was actually was like super fresh. So, yeah. Well, I just wanted to give you that, Dusty, because we didn't get to hear from you. And, you know,
no, I appreciate it. They're going to pop up too. I had a lot of people, like, that was one of the questions I've got was like stories about John was one of the things that a lot of people want to know. And it's like, you could have 10 episodes if people really got into explaining some of the stuff, you know. But what I loved the most that he covered when we were on with us the other day was, I'm so glad that went live, because people got to see the side of John that we all know and no one else really did, because he was giving to the bodybuilding community so much that people didn't realize how much stuff was more important to him with his kids and coaching. And like it was like, that was probably the first thought I had when it went down, was like, man, I'm glad that view of John hit the air. You know, because that gave a lot of people messaged me after that came up, and they were like, man, he's even cooler than I thought. You know?
Yeah. I had some people message me and say, hey, thanks for getting, you know, I'm so glad you guys got that fixed audio, because, you know, it would have been a shame to not get that last interview. So yeah, for sure, man. It's, you know, here I am 46. I'm like, holy shit. And I'll be 46 in October, you know, like, makes you think, man. You had a close call this year. Jesus.
Yeah, that's the awakening.
You got to be thankful, right?
Yeah. Now, for every day, and that's something I told people right afterwards, was it was another reminder. Like, I feel like I'm getting smacked. I mean, obviously the whole world, but me individually, like, don't forget. You know what I mean? Could be the last day, and if you live that way every day, eventually you'll be right. So, you know. But we got to cover the show before Scott decides he thinks he's going to bail, even though we might not let him the whole time. Because, man, we got some good bodybuilding going on. I was glued to my damn phone like back in the old days. I think I missed bodybuilding that much.
Yes. No. So it's been very exciting, and I sort of feel like I got slapped upside the head with bodybuilding in the last 2 weeks. Because with COVID and everything shut down, I think I almost got kind of used to there being no shows and nothing going on. And then I know things started up already. Like, we had the Puerto Rico Pro, you know, and there was a few other things happening, and NPC shows have been going on for a while, and I've had clients and stuff, but I haven't felt like the I don't know, the excitement of the bodybuilding on, you know, the big league bodybuilding. And then Tampa happened, and I was like, oh fuck, okay. And then a week later, 2 more shows go down. You got Nathan Deasha in Europe fucking winning that show, beating Rolly, which is like a huge deal for Nathan. And then you got Iain coming in and winning Dallas. And all of a sudden, big league bodybuilding is like full fucking speed. And seeing all the guys on stage and all the new guys coming up, and the classic, like these classic guys coming up. Like, it's awesome, man. The 212 has been just nuts the last 2 shows. So who wants to start? Someone start.
I think, Scott, you got to dive in, man. You're too quiet now that you're forgetting your
let's hear what Scott thinks. Let's hear what Scott.
Okay, so here's the reality. I didn't watch anything with Texas. Literally, I didn't watch anything with Texas. I did watch the show the week before. My thought is, here's what my contribution can be today. I can pull pictures up while you guys share your thoughts here. I just grabbed a picture of Iain Valliere and from Texas, and I can get anything else you guys need. But I had a bunch of stuff going on this past week, and I just, you know what, I didn't honestly pay that much attention to the show. I've got a couple thoughts on it, but I only.
Well, you know what? First off, what was funny, I didn't find out until after the fact. I didn't realize that anyone thought there was controversy on Iain's first win.
Really?
Like, to me, it was so when I heard people being like, "Oh, redemption," I'm like, redemption? he won last time. Like, what do you mean redemption? And I thought he looked fantastic. So I was stunned. I mean, truthfully, like, I didn't think that he, like, I understand that at the top level, and this is where people get confused, you can always flip people around and say, well, maybe that guy could have won. But I thought Iain won the first time. And then this week, to be honest with you, now, mind you, I'm judging from my house, not from real life.
Yeah.
Just looking at the pictures after prejudging, which I've read after the fact that Iain was even better at night, I actually thought Steve was going to win because he just was overwhelming. He was so big. And actually, Tommy messaged me and he goes, Steve made Iain look small. And I'm like, that's what I thought. Like, Steve looked enormous on stage. But then I guess, of course, I didn't voice anything because I wasn't there and I know how that works. But I had a lot of people that were at the show tell me, they were like, Iain came back like 10 times better at night. Like, it was close in the morning and he slammed the door at night.
I had a lot of people tell me that in person, Iain was harder than everybody. And in the videos, they all look very close. But I thought Kuklo looked enormous from the front. In the front shots, he's wider than everybody. And Iain's really big and wide. But Kuklo just has that he's, a little taller and a little wider structurally. And I think that the up close condition was the only reason that Iain beat him. Like, he out conditioned him. And then at nighttime, I heard he was super crazy, full and hard. So, but here's the thing: anyone that thinks there's some kind of like corruption to give Iain 2 wins knows nothing about the business of bodybuilding, because that's not what they would want business wise.
No, business-wise,
you'd want Kuklo in the Olympia. You'd want to add a guy to the show. So to give a guy 2 wins is even more of a testament to the lack of politics, in my view. Because if I'm promoting the Olympia, I fucking want Steve Kuklo there.
Sure.
Like,
for sure.
Like, do you want him in the show or not? Like, do you want to keep him in the show or not? Like, do you want, like, who? Of course, you want all these fucking guys in the show. So this thing that, like, there's any possibility that Iain's winning for any other reason, like, oh, the judges really like him. It's like, no, if there was any interest at all, it would be to give Kuklo a win and spread it out and get more guys into the O. That's my
particularly take. Like, especially when somebody says they really like him. Well, Steve is possibly one of the most likable people in the industry.
Yeah, Steve's like one of the most popular people in the whole industry when it comes to industry people.
The city of Dallas showed up to support Steve at the show. I mean, literally, I was reading. I mean, he had like 80 people at the night show to watch.
Yeah, so technically, they did like the least popular possible thing.
For sure. And it's good to see, because I don't know if you guys saw the scorecard, but on the scorecard, it actually wasn't close. Iain won prejudging and the night show.
No kidding.
And he won the night show by more. Huh. I think it was like Iain had 3 in the morning and Steve had 5. And that night, the gap was larger than that. I don't remember what it was, so I don't want to say it. But, so it was open and shut. And, I mean, I love that. Like you said, that was exactly what I was just about to say, Ron, was I love that they had the balls to do what's correct and just judge a show. You know, the only thing that I thought, and shoot me down if you disagree, was when Steve didn't win, because the first picture I saw at night was that Iain had won. I actually thought there was a possibility that the guy who took third would have been in second, because I thought he was actually harder than Steve as well. So I thought it might be like condition size. But I guess they actually just said overall, here's what we think.
So let's talk about that Phil guy. That's Phil, right? In third.
I don't know his name,
Scott's
but yes.
pulling him up. Yeah. Correct, Scott?
I'm not sure what his last name is.
Yeah, Philip Clahar. It's his. If you just go on to the MPC News Online, Scott, that's where all the pictures are on Instagram.
Gotcha.
But he looked great as well. I mean, he looked great the week before and even better at this show.
Yeah, he looked really good. He's not young either.
No. He's older than me, and I'm older than dirt, so it's impressive.
Yeah, this guy really looks awesome. He's shredded, and he has an amazing back double. Like, his back double is a beauty. But he's not more complete than Iain, and he's definitely not bigger or thicker than Iain.
Right.
He's a huge guy because he's got a giant frame, and he's, you know, a fucking top big dude. But I mean, on stage, he's the tallest one.
Yeah,
barely, maybe a bit taller than Steve. The side chest is killer. He just looks awesome. But, you know, you got to be there. Like, this top three, I'm looking at this top three, and that's like very deadly comparison, man. And they could have gone with Steve. I mean, they definitely,
I think that was what was good. I saw a couple people that were there said that. They said, yeah, they said that any of the top three could have won, and other than fans of individuals, no one would have disagreed. Because it was just that close, you know. And I did like, you know, one reason I really like seeing Iain win was I love that he's bodybuilding. Like, as a fan, forget about competing. I love seeing guys that are like, I know I won a week ago. Now I want to try to win again. And he knows he's going against somebody he hasn't beaten yet. So I thought that was awesome to see. It kind of reminded me of when I was coming up and guys used to do all the shows.
Yeah. It's, I mean, that's, as I said, I sent a message to Iain and I go, I think it's a good idea that you do in Texas. That's what Ronnie would do. And he just replied, he's like, fuck yeah, you know.
Well, same with like he said, he put up a post. He's like, you know, Dexter, when he won his 29th pro show, knocked me out of the Olympia 2 years ago. You know, or it might have been last year. Like, it was like, and it's odd to me that people say that. Why wouldn't you give room for someone else? What are you talking about? Like, A, I'm competitive. B, it's my wallet. If they want to win, then have them beat me.
Well, plus there's just think of the value of the psychological game. So in Ian's head now, Kukla was 6th last year.
Yeah.
And he just beat him. So Iain just went to Texas and he's coming home with like a nuclear weapon in his arsenal that he now fully believes and is absolutely convinced that he can beat the top 6 guy at the O, because he just did. So now
last year he lost to Hunter and then he beat him at the Olympia.
Yeah. Like,
everyone he needs to beat, he's been beating.
Yeah, and so Iain just empowered himself with like a huge mental advantage going into the show.
At
like,
big risk.
Believed, like, now.
At big risk.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been, at the same time, it could have been equally as devastating, you know, to lose that. Be like, oh, all that momentum of having won is now canceled out, you know? So it was a ballsy move, I think.
So now Ian's definitely, absolutely thinking, well, there's no reason I'm not first call out if I can beat Kuklo. So, you know, we'll see what happens now.
I would love to see. You know what I'm loving the most about it, guys, is the changing of the guard is taking place while we're here. Like, same with the 212. I mean, the new guys are passing the old guys.
Yeah.
You know,
hey, let's talk about. I love seeing that. Let's talk about Guy Cisternino doing his last show. So if you're going to talk about changing in the guard, I sent Guy a message, just, you know, congratulated him and said, man, you know, a lot of respect for what you did. And I hope that, you know, everything's going great. And what do you think? It was amazing to see, you know, Guy. He looked fantastic at his last show, which was fucking good to see. And I heard his speech and, you know, a lot of respect for him.
What I think is great about Guy is he doesn't Guy has probably one of the biggest followings in the sport. Like literally the amount of people that are just huge fans and would come out to shows just to see him compete were through the roof. And like you said, I like that he went out looking great. Like he left bodybuilding. Bodybuilding didn't make him leave. You know what I mean? And I understand hasn't made the top call out in the last 2 shows, but he just got second 2 months ago or whatever it was, you know? So I love that. And then the fact that he bounced back. I mean, after he got sick a couple of years ago, like, I really thought that was the end. I mean, he had muscles that weren't growing anymore. He looks the biggest I've ever seen him here. That's for sure.
Yeah. He's 7 pro wins, right?
7 or 8, and 7 Olympias.
7 pro wins. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next bro chat because with Iain, Nathan, and Guy all having huge weekends, I think that's going to be one that I'm going to watch because I don't get to watch many podcasts, but that'll be a good one.
Do you guys remember back when he was on the RX Muscle, like when he was a middleweight, and Dave was working with him, and I believe he was working with Evan at the time, possibly. And they were doing like videos, like they like Guy was with his dad in their garage butchering deer and stuff like that, and he was just all legs. Like he didn't have an upper body. He had great legs, but he like did not have an upper body. He was a legit middleweight bodybuilder. And then to see what he's been able to do since then, he's one of those people. I feel like, I mean, he was a middleweight when he turned pro, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I'm not
I think
sure.
so.
But he's one of those people that like you could say, oh, well, your career's over now. You know, you turned pro. That's great. You know, now you're done. He really had done so much since then.
I don't think anybody was going to say he's going to make 7 Olympias when he turned pro.
Yeah.
I gotta give Guy credit too, because there were a few times where I saw a guy after he'd been like injured and stuff. Like I saw him in Australia once, and he was super small. Like he wasn't competing; he was just there for the booth, right? But he had just had like his shoulder done or something like that. Like it was like huge. He hadn't trained at all, but he didn't seem to give a fuck. Like he was just like, oh, cool. Like he was walking around the expo. He's like, hey, you know, he's at the booth talking to fans, and he's and I always admired that when a guy can like. You know how the industry is. A lot of people don't want to be seen unless they're at their best or whatever. But Guy didn't give a shit. He wanted to see the fans and do his thing. And then, like, I think the next year he showed up and like he was back and he competed, you know, in the 212.
Yeah.
You know, so like he knows what he's capable of, and he always knew. And you know, it was just good to see him doing so great. So
it was definitely great seeing. And I loved I did like his speech on the way out. I thought very, very Guy. And he actually I have to add this. He's one of the people who reached out and like really checked in multiple times on me, when I was kind of just getting back home. It was cool because it's not like we talk on the regular, or anything like that. It's just, it was an extra thing to reach out and check in. And I thought that was really cool too, because I always factor in how busy people are when they do anything for you. You're like, wow, all right. You know, you have time to do that. So an impressive career on all levels, if you ask me, as far as being a true professional.
What do you think of Rolly being beaten by Nathan?
I love it. I love Nathan anyways because he's one of my favorite people in the sport. But I just love Nathan in general. But I think his physique, and I know this sounds terrible, I don't know how people expect him to do anything but win. Like, it blows my mind when people don't assume that he's going to be 1 or 2 in every show he does. I mean, he comes in on every time, and he's one of those people that looks really, really big on stage. I mean, no matter who he's standing next to, he can hold his own. Like, you know, sometimes you'll see somebody and you're like, yeah, but they haven't stood next to anybody yet. I've never seen him look small, ever, no matter who he's standing next to, because his structure is so good. You know, he trains his ass off, and then I just respect him as a human because he's kind of a throwback old school person. You know, I mean, I think sometimes it rubs people the wrong way, but that's what I love about him. If you lived in the U.S., I'd be like, oh, so you're from New York, huh? I mean, it would just, by default, I would assume that.
The soft gloves, right?
Yes, I love the fact that he would punch you in the face if you said something out of line. That to me is what a man's supposed to be, and somehow that got lost. Well, his physique was nuts, man. He came back, and I felt like it was pretty decisive. Looking at pictures, I was like, oh, he came, destroyed, and walked out. Just like he said he would, by the way, which I also love. Is he said that from the day he said he was doing that show? He's like, I'll win.
Yeah,
like. It wasn't a question. Is he doing the Arnold?
Oh, I don't know.
If he's doing the Arnold, I have a hard time. I think he could win. I hope he's doing the Arnold.
Right.
I would love to see that.
Shit. Well, you know, he should let someone else qualify for the Olympia.
Yeah, be nice.
Be nice. Yeah, it's going to be cool. Him and Hollingshead now from England.
Yep.
Both Neo.
Don't you think it's funny that because James qualified last year, like people are forgetting to talk about him while he's just been working away and getting better and better and better out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I know he's public and he puts his pictures up all the time, but it's as close as you'll ever get to like the Dorian feel. Like people are forgetting. I'm like, this is one of the best that never misses. He's going to be in the mix of the Olympia.
Yeah, it's cool. It's gonna be exciting. Now, Hollingshead at his best, and Nathan at his best. Who places higher at the O?
Oof.
That's actually tough.
That I mean, and I always answer these because I think you have no balls if you won't. But here's the thing. I think that Hollingshead is so dense and thick, but then on the flip, you've got Nathan's. Its structure is flawless. Here's what I'll say. Hollingshead is my preferred physique, and I think Nathan would win.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
I think I identify by default with dudes who just look crazy, and he's possibly he or Akeem are the strongest people on the planet, probably. I mean, as bodybuilders.
Yeah. So one thing too is one thing that makes the question very difficult is the best that we've seen of Hollingshead was a year ago, and the best that we've seen was a day ago. So it's hard. Like, who knows what's James been doing? Let's see what this looks like.
James always looks great on his pictures, but you don't realize until you see him on stage next to other people how good it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I can post up pictures in shape by myself and look pretty good. It all goes sideways once I'm standing next to good bodybuilders.
I can guarantee you one thing: James has not been sleeping. You know what I mean?
Oh, God, no.
He's only getting better. We haven't seen him yet, but I'm gonna go with James on this one, and I'm influenced because I like him. I like his physique. Right. I like his attitude. I could identify more with him too. But if I had to pick, I would hope. I'll put it that way. I would hope it would be James. I would hope that I feel like he could outmuscle Deasha as well. I do. And he has black guy muscle. You realize that?
Oh yeah.
He has that round, freaky muscle.
So the one thing Hollingshead has it's very rare. Not very many guys have it. And it's not just because of the accent or the pale skin, but Hollingshead has the Dorian factor.
Yeah.
He has it. It's in his physique. It's in his front double bicep.
Yeah.
It's in his legs. It's through his back, his thickness. It's in his traps. When you see a picture of him from like here up, it's like there's a Dorian factor there. You know that picture of Dorian where his famous picture, he's just standing in his underwear even, but he's just kind of like almost reaching up a little bit, and his trap is
I know exactly what you're about.
It's this old famous picture of Dorian. He's kind of like got a snarl on his face. It's like a casual picture. He's not posing. It's like he just like went to move his fucking pants or something. And I saw a funny picture of James, like just randomly, where it was like on Instagram. He was kind of like, it looked like he was reaching and his trap was like shrugged up. And I was just like, yeah, it looks like a square brick inserted under the skin. And that's the Dorian factor in that certain body part, you know? And
you know what's great about both of them?
There's something there. There's something about that physique that is a little bit different.
It's so freaky.
I think what I love about both of those guys, though, is they both have hit. James didn't get this until after Luke had passed, but they both know they can beat anyone. Yeah. Like, I love that. Like, they know that. And you can't listen. A lot of people will say that I can win. There's difference when you know, like, you know, for both of them. So it'll be really cool to see. And I'm sure there's a ton of mutual respect because they are both in those ways. Don't get me wrong. A lot of ways are nothing alike. But when it comes to bodybuilding and believing in themselves, I think they're pretty evenly matched.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just
I'm
wacky
excited to
right
see
there.
it, man. It's awesome to see all these guys headed to the O. So
It's just good to talk about it again. Remember, if there was a couple of years where no one, I remember when Phil was in his reign, I barely paid attention. I think that there was no, it just lost, I guess, because I was, baptized in the 90s. And then there was that phase in the middle where it was just like, eh. And now it's exciting for me again. It probably has more to do with me than them, but like I love watching as a fan and just saying, like, you come into shows, like you said, I mean, none of us can just blatantly go, oh, that guy will win out of those two. Like, there's a lot of those.
Exciting.
I think if Iain and Steve were to do 10 shows, it would probably go 5-5. I mean, they're evenly matched in so many ways, and that's fun to have the sport back to that point. I mean, which mind you, but before we switch too many subjects, I have to touch this. Did you guys see the pictures from the guest posing that Lunsford did?
Oh, we talked about it last week. The fucking guest posing, the video. Yeah.
I feel like he made what I said come true all at once when I saw those guest posing that video. I was like, oh, and that's what I said would happen when he got to Hani.
Jose said, I don't see why he doesn't just drop water and go to Texas. That's what
I don't even disagree. Week, right? I mean, he was. Look at, I'm like, oh, so that's what it looks like to be 5'6" and 340.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were saying. We were saying like from that video, the look, like his back. Yeah. Like, look at that. The back double. I have a really, really hard time believing he can be 212 in any reasonable situation. It doesn't even make sense. So like, if he goes to the Olympia 212 this year and he doesn't have the wow factor,
then
that is the absolute final useless attempt to go down to 212 for this guy.
Yep.
It has to be. Because that physique is nuts. Is absolutely nuts. So,
well, and we've all seen him in person, so it's like it's not a factor where I think he'd end up looking smaller. I think he can win in the Open as well, like easily.
That's the thing. It's fucking crazy. Like, what's he weigh there? 230, 235? Like, God.
That's unreal. How tall is he?
I don't actually know the answer to that, but I would guess 5'6", 5'7".
Yeah, that's what I figured, but it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up, though. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't add up. He can't be any taller than that and make 212.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, and with that kind of... I just think it's cool that somehow he stands up with no bones, because he can't have bones or he would weigh more.
Yeah. The back double bicep was awesome. Like, it was that like completely lights out back double where you're like, oh yeah, that's just like no one else going to be able to. It's going to be very tough to stand next to in the 212. Jesus.
I hope that he brings it because I've always liked him, and I mean, I always felt like, okay, I love loyalty, but it's time to realize that what you and your coach are putting together isn't working because you're falling short of what you have. You know what I'm saying? Like a guy like me, could never even dream of being off and not make dead last, and this guy's getting like third and fourth when he's off, and I'm like, well, if he's on, I really do believe if, like you said, he doesn't lose the wow factor coming down, then in my opinion, he's not beatable. Like, there's just too much.
That does not look real.
Yeah, no, it does. That's what I love. Is you're looking at that and you're like, that's shopped. Like, no, it's not.
So someone asked me the other day. They said, "Do you think that Chris Bumstead, Ramy, and Sean Clarida will all repeat this year?" And it's a great question. And I said, my answer was that they definitely are all defending champions that I would favor to win.
Right.
But they all have serious challenges coming their way this year. And they're all smart enough to know that. So I expect I expect a better Bumstead. a better Clarida, which is like a nuts thing, like a few more pounds of muscle. Maybe he's fucking 2 pounds heavier. And I expect a better Ramy, like a much harder from the back, more impossible to beat Ramy. So since I expect them all to improve, I also expect them all to win if I had to put money on them, because if they all improve, they all should win.
Right.
So, but that's just, kind of the statistical laws of the universe, right? Like on average, if the champion gets better, he probably won't get beat. But because you've got Lunsfords, you've got this physique, who's this new physique guy that just won both shows too, didn't he?
He's not new, but he took off for 3 years.
Yeah, that guy. And he put on 20 pounds of muscle. What's his name?
I don't know, and I should because he's from Arizona. But I just actually read the story myself because I didn't know who it was either. Give me 10 seconds and I can tell you.
Yeah, I was just like on his Instagram for like a half.
Robert Timms?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, he looked wacky.
Mr. Classic Physique.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. He looked absolutely nuts. The only thing I can say that is yet to be seen is one of those situations where here's going to be my argument. He beat Logan by a point to win this show. And I say this with respect because I love Logan, but Logan's nowhere near Bumstead.
No. But there's
so that's my
yeah.
Like when I look, I feel like if here's what I will say: if I was going to put money on one person, I would just shy of guarantee winning. It would be Bumstead because he was so far ahead of it. Like last year, I remember seeing him alone first, and I go, "It's done." Like it reminded me of Jay in 2009. Like I don't need to see anybody else. You're not being that.
Also, too, I got to talk to Chris quite a bit because he was out here for like several weeks training at the gym, right, with the royal family. And just hearing him talk about prep and the Olympia this year, like the thing that people probably get with Chris, but he seems so ridiculously calm and confident and absolutely believes in everything he's doing and planning 1000%. Like he's like in his head, it's done deal. Like there's no one's going to beat him. How can they beat him? He's in control of everything. That's how he thinks.
Yeah. And he's going to, like you said, he's going to improve. From that, which seems impossible.
and the fact that his coach literally sees him like fucking daily is like,
I can think of one problem. I can think of one problem for him. Terrence Ruffin.
He's nuts.
I hadn't thought about this, and honestly, one of the reason I hadn't been focusing on bodybuilding this past week, I was honestly kind of still shell shocked with everything with John, and I kind of just like I didn't look at any of the posts, anything like that. I haven't. Scott Stevenson made what looked to be a very touching post. I know Sean Clarida did. Like I literally haven't watched any of that yet, and I didn't. That's the reason I didn't plug into bodybuilding this past week. I just stopped to think about it now. Terrence has made such fantastic improvement, and I know he trains with Joe Bennett, but John was his coach, and John had done so much work with him. He pushed up to second, this past year at the Olympia. And he shocked a ton of people, and to me, I feel like he's still rising. He's only getting better. I gotta, what the relationship is like between your coach and athlete. So, I'm sure that this has been, exceptionally difficult for him given his relationship with John. I don't know what he's going to do moving forward this year. So I don't know how that will affect him, but, and I hate to talk about it in that way. Like, how does this affect your physique type thing? But there is that reality to it too. But he's my favorite personally, and it made my day to see him take second last year and push in. You know, and like I said, man, I feel like he's got potential, a lot of potential left to improve.
I want some challenges. I don't want to see.
Yeah.
You know, I have reasons for not wanting to see anyone win easy. You know,
sure.
Like we all love seeing the crush. Like everyone loves seeing Dorian come out in 93 and not even do a call out in the symmetry or whatever, or Jay just like walk on stage and go like this, and everyone goes, "Yep,
yeah,"
and like everyone loves that. Everyone loves that, but I also love when they got to do the top 2 call out at the end, and it's not just for show.
Yeah,
and the crowd goes fucking nuts, and you're still not sure who's gonna win. And everyone leaves the morning show going, holy fuck, you know, that's the best. And I hope someone shows up and pushes Chris and makes him earn it. And obviously I want to see Bumstead win. And I hope someone shows up and pushes Clarida and makes every rep and every set that he did this year fucking worth it. And but I'd love to see Sean repeat, you know. And who doesn't want to see Ramy actually fulfill his potential?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to see him as hard as Ronnie from the back?
Out of the 3 people you mentioned, Chris, Sean, and Big Ramy, I feel like Ramy has the most room for improvement based off of last year.
For sure.
Pure conditioning. He's got so much farther he can go. Like, the glutes are striated and he's Mr. Olympia, but he can be harder. Like, we know that. We all know that look, like that next level look. He's winning the O in great condition, but it's not the best we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah, not even close.
Like Ronnie was winning the Olympia with the best condition in the world. Right?
Yeah. And the
not
biggest.
Only am I I'm the biggest and the hardest.
Yeah.
Everyone's fucked.
Yeah.
And Dorian did the same thing. I'm the biggest and the hardest. Everyone's fucked. And Ramy's like, I'm the biggest and my glutes are ripped enough to win.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? It's true.
No, very true. Very true. It's
true.
Funny. I don't know if you guys saw, but on Jay's birthday, Fuad put up a clip from, or a couple of them, but he threw up a clip from when they did their interview. And he asked Jay about 2003 with Ronnie. And it was so great because Jay was like, yeah, he goes, at that point, I had won everything that year. I'd won the Arnold. I'd won the Ironman. I was the biggest thing in bodybuilding, and I was coming back. Jay. Yeah, and he was like, and he goes, and I knew I could win. And he goes, you know, and I'm back. He goes, then I saw Ronnie backstage. I thought, oh, fuck. Like, he knew he lost backstage because he showed up like that. I mean, that's the thing I'd like to see from Ronnie. I mean, from Ramy, because that was exciting as a fan. Because remember, Ronnie had kind of squeaked 2 wins in a row because I don't care what anybody says, he shouldn't have lost to Jay for sure in 01, or he shouldn't have beat Jay in 01. And then in 2, it was Levroni that pushed him. So I remember like sitting there in the 6th row at the 2003 prejudging. And when Ronnie came out, the guy in front of me just started laughing because your brain didn't know what to do with it. You were like,
And remember 2002, remember right after the Olympia, Gunter beat him at the show of strength.
Yeah.
And that was that huge loss that Ronnie had to Gunter. And so coming into 03, everyone was like, this is wide open.
Yeah, and Jay had been winning everything in sight. Yeah, no, I just remember too. I don't know. Did you go to prejudging, either of you guys, for that?
Oh, I saw the whole 03 year. Yeah, the whole 03.
Like Ronnie used to. It was funny because a lot of people don't realize. Like Ronnie was loud on stage. Like he would yell and shit while he was posing. And it was so funny because they called the rear lat spread and he opened up, and so did everybody else. And they all looked about the same. And then Ronnie said something like and then opened again. And like,
yeah.
It's totally Ronnie.
I loved when they were doing the individuals. Ronnie was on stage by himself, and Wayne D'Amelia was calling the poses back then, right? And he had that unmistakable voice, right?
Yeah.
You know, back double bicep, turn to the rear, back double bicep. You know, And Ronnie turns around and stands there, and then he starts marching on the spot and flexing his glutes. Boom, boom, boom. And he just stands there, and then he puts a leg back, slam, and then sets it up and hits it, and then the whole crowd just goes, like, it was funny. And then he goes, rear lat spread. And Ronnie starts marching again, flex, 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 just crunching his glutes. And it was just like so awesome. He knew it was just over. Like, and my buddy John Davey was in the show. That's why I was there, because I was like cheering on John, right? And John said he got this kind of room where it was him, Claude Gruel. Do you remember Claude Gruel?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And Ronnie came in and put his bag in that room, and took his jacket off. Still had his pants on. He just took his jacket off, and he said everyone just started shaking his hand and congratulating him.
Oh my gosh!
They're like, "Oh,
way to win the show already."
Yeah, he said Ronnie was walking around with his pants on. People shaking his hand. Congrats, man. Congrats.
That's crazy.
It's like 9 in the morning. 9 in the morning. Congrats.
Show ended at 10 p.m. Actually, it ended at 9 a.m. We just didn't know yet. We weren't there.
It was over at 9 a.m., man. It was over. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna do questions now. We gotta do questions.
You want me to still hang out here, or you guys want to take this? You tell me, Ron. What are you gonna do?
Hang on.
All right, I'm here.
Because then you can't leave now. Because then if you leave, then the comments are gonna be like, "Why'd they kick him off?"
I feel like people get enough.
Out answer us.
Yeah,
he was going to out answer us.
People get a lot of me though, so I don't want to overstop. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, that's fine. You can. Hey, if you want, you can just make your window like a little narrower.
Yeah. So I was gonna try to like lean in, get the shoulder. I'm trying to hang with two pros here.
Me and Dusty a little more shoulder, and then just like maybe a fifth of the screen.
My shoulders are finally coming back. I'm very excited.
What are you weighing now, Dusty?
I was 287 in the morning.
287.
Yeah, I'm heavier than you now.
287. Yeah. So you're just about back there. Then.
I'm sorry, I lied. I was 277. I was like, wait, that's
okay.
No, because I've gained almost 50 back.
Nice.
So yeah, that was a good sign. It was funny because I haven't been checking, but actually what happened was I had my shirt off and I went in the bathroom in the morning and I looked and I didn't hate it for the first time in 3 months. And I was like, I wonder what I weigh. So I just turned around, stepped on the scale. And I was like, oh, that's why I put on 50 pounds. Cool. Good to know. Good to know. And it's funny because because I finally liked the look again, I started bringing in all the extras. I'm like, oh, fine. So I'm going to put it up today, but Transcend sent me a bunch of different products I've never used. So I started those on Monday. I'm like, all right, well, we'll get to 300 soon then.
Ron, what's nice? I'm looking at a picture of Ron right now. What is this?
Yeah, so I sent it to Dusty. I actually meant to send it to both you guys, but I put it on the wrong chat. So I sent it to Scott. But that's me yesterday at 250.
You're kidding me.
No, so I'm pretty lean right now.
Can I put this up there?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I thought it had to be on your laptop, but whatever, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
That's
look at that.
Tired Ron that's biking now.
Yeah.
I'm about 250 in the morning. I was 248 this morning.
I wouldn't have guessed you were that lean right now.
Yeah.
Do all Flatlanders look like that?
Yeah.
No, but I'll tell you what, I've been riding quite a bit, and it burns a lot of calories. I'm sneaking in more cheat meals than I ever thought I would be able to sneak in. Like I had 5 guys.
Grain in your abs, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and that's no filter. That's no filter. That's just a timer app in my office. So I didn't doctor that at all. I just zoomed in a bit and screenshotted it. So it's even worse quality. But yeah, I've been riding so much. Like I had 5 guys yesterday, and woke up this morning 2 pounds down from what I was yesterday morning. So it's just kind of funny, burning calories like crazy. So,
it's funny that you said that. So you guys are going to do this right now because it was a question. Why does that happen? I literally had that. I don't even know where it is because I read it this morning. But that was a question someone had: is they'll throw up that they had a cheat meal, and then the next day they'll show their weight is down. What is that?
So for some people, that's just that the fat and carbs or whatever actually cleared out their guts.
Yeah.
Because I've had lots of girls that are like having digestive issues or something, and then they'll have like a nice big carb meal or something, and they'll take like a huge dump, and then they'll pee a whole bunch, because if your intestines are backed up, you don't manage water, so you're going to be holding water as well. So they take a huge dump and then piss fucking 10 times that night.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the next morning they're like, oh, I'm down 3 pounds. And it's like, you're not leaner. You were kind of fucked up with all the veggies you were eating and everything. So that can happen to people. Sorry?
So they were more full of shit than usual.
More full of shit than usual.
No, it's funny because I don't even know where that question is, but I read it this morning. I was just scanning the questions. I'm like, oh, perfect timing. The slide over, because a lot of times I've had athletes do that where they'll ask me like, well, shouldn't I have more of those meals then? I'm like, it
doesn't work that way.
It's not what happens. You want to do it 3 days in a row so I can show you what will really happen?
Yeah. And also too, it can just trigger, like, it can trigger a really great, like if you have a cheat meal, it can trigger a real great thermogenic effect where you actually throwing off calories like crazy. And you know, we've all had those nights where we're dieting hard, we have a high carb day or something, and we sweat the bed that night.
Yeah.
And get up and piss 10 times because our body's processing all this food, and we piss a whole bunch and sweat a whole bunch. And then of course you can be like a little light in the morning. So you feel like, oh, that meal didn't even hit me. But that's not always how
I always considered the high days when Chris would give them double-edged swords, because I knew if I got that on a Friday, then Saturday was going to suck because I was going to be starving all day.
Yeah.
It threw everything through the roof. So no matter what I ate the next day, I was dying. I'm like,
sometimes too, the weight gain on the scale is actually like the next morning. So like let's say you're 250, you have your cheat meal. The next morning you're 250 again. You're like, oh, it didn't hit me. And then the next day you're 252.
Right.
And you're like, oh, sometimes that's what happens too. It just takes a while to like accumulate, you know? So, okay, let's do some questions, Dusty.
I've got a ton. So you got to grab another one.
Oh, no, we're doing yours.
Oh, you don't have any? Shit, I got a ton. Perfect. Okay, here's one for both of you guys that you'll love. Feel completely burnt out, no desire to train. First time I felt like this. What should I do?
Take a week off and do something that'll like take your mind off things or de-stress somehow. Sometimes that's the combination of what it is. It's like, just needs to take a week off, and he'll probably miss the gym in 3 days.
Right.
And want to train again. But if you're there's other things you can do. You can change your program up. You can do all sorts of things to make working out fun. You can go train at a different gym. You can go train with a friend. Like, hey, I haven't seen my buddy for a while. Maybe we'll do arms or something. Like, who knows? Like, people should do more of that. It's fun. And enjoy their training. So maybe there's something that you can do to just have fun. Just there's nothing fucking wrong with that. But if you're truly burned out, then probably time for a week off. Because I know there's some people that don't even take days off because they're in this no days off thing, which obviously we preach against because it actually causes issues like this. So yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do, but maybe a week off is due.
I feel like people get us, and I think I felt this way even years ago. When you reach that phase, you almost don't want to admit it because you would feel guilty for not wanting to train. Right. And be like, so you just try to keep forcing, like we do with everything in bodybuilding, just continue banging your head against the wall and forcing it because it eventually is going to work. But then you just get burnt out more instead of recognizing, just like if your strength was to go down, or just like if you're to tweak something because you've been in the gym, it's the same thing. It's just, it's in my opinion, that's biofeedback, it's just another form of feedback. Your body telling you like, hey, maybe I need an extra day. Like with, we're talking progressive overload. I'll get anxiety about maintaining my strength, about knowing like, okay, next time I have to do better than that. And it's a great challenge up to a point, but then at a certain point it starts becoming anxiety. And that's when I know like, hey, maybe I need to back off just a little bit here so that it becomes fun again,
Yeah. I think that's the magic, what you guys both said, which is simple. If you're somebody who loves doing this, and anything about the gym is less than fuck yeah, I get to go do this, it's time for time off. Because there's literally it's I've realized, especially after being sick, like there's pretty much nothing I would rather do than go train. So if there's ever a point where I'm not excited to drive to the gym, I'd be like, time for a break. Even if strength was high, even if things were still rolling, I would be like, wait a minute, I'm not excited to go do what I love doing. Take a break.
Yeah.
I think that breaks are the things that all of us looking back can probably say, man, we could have taken more of those earlier in our career.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the same as diet. Like, you know, the old saying, diet only works if it's sustainable. Right. So, you know, long term, like you can only stick to a diet if it's sustainable, and you can't stick to unsustainable diets for very long. That's why when we go hard for the last few weeks of a contest, I mean, we know it's only a few weeks, so we can do it, but you couldn't do it if it was just infinite. And the same goes for training programs. Like we just like work out every day. It's like, well, how long does that go on before you start not wanting to train? And that's a huge problem. And that's something that I think I did really well at managing, because I wanted to train all the time. Taking weeks off was very hard for me. It was always a physical rest thing, rarely a mental rest thing. And I think that's because I just always found a way to enjoy my training so much and also manage my recovery well enough that I always wanted to train. So weeks off were always a strategy thing, not necessarily a mental emergency thing.
Right. I think it's one of the, like looking back, and I can tell you I've never been able to match it again. But when I won the 2008 whatever the fuck show it was, Border States, I had a hernia when I won. I actually had 3. So after the show, I had to get them all repaired. And back then, hernias were a big pain in the ass. Like I was out of the gym for 12 weeks. And I literally, and I don't have any discipline if I'm not training. I ate bad food, got fat and small. But going into the surgery, the best I'd ever been was 286, heavy off season, but 286. I couldn't get past it. I shrunk down to 250 something in fat. 12 weeks after the surgery, I was 293. And I remember thinking, I needed that time off because all the little injuries and nicks and pains were all also gone when I went back in. And all of a sudden I could just train. And that was one of those things I used to always say, and this is since 2008, so we can all say I'm full of shit. I was like, I'll do that every year. I'm going to start taking 8 weeks off, and I'd make it like a week. I remember one year I told Chris, I said, hey, I'm not going to train for 3 weeks. I'm going to let my body rest and just stay out of the gym. And
I know you're not.
Like 7 days in, I'm texting Chris. I'm like, dude, I'm going crazy. And he literally responded back to me. He goes, well, this isn't good for you anymore. Go to the gym. Like that was his answer. And I was like, yeah, it's so obvious. That's true. This is not helping me. This is hurting me. All right, here's one. Scott, I want to get you to lead off on this one because I thought it was good. But I just want to get your version because I know the answer. But guy says, judges always said I need more size. I've turned to GH. What dosage is good? I'm not asking you to answer the dosage question. I'm more saying get into the point of if size is the answer. Did he turn to the right thing?
No. I think I remember it was like a decade ago. The answer was as much GH as you can afford. And everybody was doing, like, on the boards, the guys who were pushing it hard were doing, like, the 10-unit vials of the generics, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm. It was still a lot of money. You know, you were, especially at 10 units a day. I think now, I think the most I've heard somebody experimenting with that was Dave Crossland that I do a podcast with. Mm-hmm. He took the money he made from his Under Construction, the film documentary, and he invested it all in growth, farm grade growth, and he was running 25 units a day. And he said he got nothing from it, basically. He said he like volumized, he got really sleepy, and he got nothing from it. I'd say, I think in my experience, I'd run like 7 units at one time. Mm-hmm. I didn't see any difference than running 4 units, or honestly than running like 2 units of some really good growth. So I'll say that I think nowadays we've really caught on. Like we used to think that was going to be the answer, that you had to run high amounts of growth. In fact, I think Jay Cutler was the one who even said that at one point, that like run as much growth as you can afford. But I think that as you guys would preach, it's going to be the training and the nutrition to get you there. And then the drugs, then the steroids.
My experience with growth hormone was pretty much only during contest prep. I only used GH in the off season once, and I was only using 3 IUs of omnitropin, real farm Omni, and I had 3 to 4 IUs a day of Omni, and I ran that for like the whole pretty much 10 months. And so I didn't take a lot, but I just took a bit of good stuff all year.
That's good.
And I wasn't like, wasn't radically bigger or anything. I just thought I had a great year. It was like very subtle. And I had I remember looking at some of my photos and I was like, okay, I looked great at a fairly heavy body weight. Like I was definitely full and the diet went really well. But it wasn't like people think they're going to put on 20 pounds of muscle and it's the next level and they're going to look like the big guys in the gym because that's growth hormone. That's a complete fallacy to me. What's your take, Dusty?
But you guys nailed it. That's why I wanted to kind of just hand it to you, because growth to me was a pre-contest thing. And I will say the only thing that I would tell, and the highest I've ever been is 8 IUs. And now 4 is all I ever would do. But what I notice is I look more round. That's it. And that's if you're in shape, because you can see it. So I did that. I'd be like, I could see that I could see that I'm more round looking. You know what I mean? And that's it. Like, so and I'm going to answer this on my page as well, just in case he doesn't watch the show. But it's like, this is not some anti-drug thing. It's truly like, there's nothing wrong. Growth is, I think everyone should take growth. I think it's great for you. I think it's the fountain of youth in a lot of ways. So don't think I'm shooting on growth. What I'm saying is, I wish it was named something else, because that's not what it's going to do for you.
Right. That's funny. Yeah. It's the name. The name deceives people.
Why tell people if it wasn't called growth hormone, everyone would use it, because people would understand that's not the biggest asset. I have more female clients for skin, hair, nails, and rejuvenation. Exactly why I have them take it, and they get it from their doctors, and they're good to go. But not the magic for guys.
I used generics back when, like, we used to do that, right? Which I don't do anymore. But and I did the whole like, okay, 4 IU a day for this prep. Okay, next prep I'm going to do 6. Okay, next prep it's fucking 10. Okay, I'm just going to run 10 the whole fucking prep. 5 in the morning, 5 at night. I didn't really notice a difference.
That's what I'm saying.
Got high.
That's what I'm saying.
There was like an effect and a look that was, like you're on low carbs and you're still really vascular.
Yeah.
Like there's that sort of effect, like, because I would get crazy veiny. Like I remember at night time when I was like shredded and also juiced up. Like I'm lean now, but like,
you're still freaking vascular.
I was going to say, please put that picture up right now. Right? Not taking growth.
Like I was veiny,
No, but like, but just, with all the size pushing out, the veins just look crazier and they're all over the legs and just nasty. And you're like, Jesus, I'm on 50 carbs today. Where's all this fullness coming from?
Yeah.
Right.
So there's something that happens with it like that, but it's not a muscle tissue grow machine. It's not going to make you Captain America.
I think growth and insulin are the 2 drugs that people really overstate. And I know insulin's not a drug, so I should watch that. But you know what I'm saying? 2 enhancers that people really think like, well, once I do that, it's going to be game over. I'm like,
yeah.
For your wallet, maybe.
Very, very disappointing usually for most people.
So here's another one. And I got a great bodybuilding questions this time. Do you guys believe in growing into a weight, i.e. going up 40 pounds and holding that for 6 or 8 months?
So kind of, yeah. Like, I mean, these questions are all on how they're worded and that sort of stuff.
We have to take it how we think.
Yeah. So I always said, like, the longer you can hold a body weight, the more it cements in and more permanent it becomes. Agreed. So like, if you like push your off season up and you hit, say 275 for a day, well, a week into your diet, you're going to be 260.
Right.
Like that's all McDonald's and fucking water, right? But if you push up and you get to 275 and you hold it for like 3-4 months, that's different. When you start your diet now, you're going to be like, after your first week, maybe you're 270.
Yeah.
It's like, there's something to that. Obviously, you know, drugs are involved, crazy training is involved, not missing meals is involved. If you want to cement in a new default body weight of actual tissue, it takes just relentless consistency to pound on that body weight. I always had the vision, like, you know, when you see a guy making a sword, like a medieval guy, and he's got the red hot iron and he's just fucking pounding, and then they fold it and they pound it again, and fold it, pound it again, and they just, however many times they fold and pound is how good the sword is, right? And the denser the steel and the more it's heat treated and all that stuff. And that's how I think of like building actual muscle. Like it's the difference between taking a bunch of D-ball and test for a couple months and blowing up 25 pounds versus, you know, gaining 25 pounds over the course of a year and holding it. And, you know, it's different reality. And so that's why I say, you know, you gotta be big to actually get big. Like, you can't just blow up all the time and lose a bunch of weight and expect to be bigger at your show, to put the time in. Agreed.
What about you, Scott?
I got nothing to add. I got two guys here who've pushed to 300 pounds. Light heavyweight bodybuilder. I'm just gonna listen to you two on this one. How about that?
I think the biggest thing that I would add to that also is that Ron actually is a perfect example of right now. When you've held size for a number of years, it becomes very difficult to get rid of. And Dante and I used to argue about this all the time. I told him before I got sick, I was like, yeah, I'm going to diet down to like 240 as quick as possible. And he laughed. And he's like, when's the last time you were under 270 ever? And I was like, 2016 for a show. And he was like, exactly. And it's funny because last year, and I've been mentioning this quite a bit, and I'm excited because I can finally put it out there and prove it, is I've been tinkering for years because I knew I wasn't going to compete really anymore. I wasn't competing to make money. I was never going to win or anything like that. So I've been enjoying training and eating and just cruising for years. And now I'm actually assaulting bodybuilding again. So without question, I can say it out loud. I will be bigger than I've ever been in the next 6 months for sure. Because I just sat there for so long. And it's the same reason, like, and I was happy to see some responses on the post I put up the other day where people are like, oh, muscle memory is real. You know, I went from 230 after being sick to 276 on 200 milligrams of testosterone.
Yeah.
That's just eating and training again. And for 6 of those weeks, half of my body wasn't working. Like, it's, you know, it's just now clicking. So
nice.
you cannot replace time of holding a size. It's just like Ron said, if you touch a weight, I see guys do that all the time, like, finish my bulk, I'm gonna start dieting tomorrow. I'm like, no, please don't. Hang out, you know. And I think that's why a lot of people are disappointed that actually do put in the work to get better, but they're like, man, I can't figure out why I'm not getting better. I'm like, you need time. You know, I used to take 2 years between shows because I knew I wasn't good enough, truthfully, was the reasoning. But it's also why every show I would go up like 15 pounds of stage weight, because that's how long it would take for that muscle to A, grow, and B, still be there through the prep.
I've got a client that I've been helping, a good friend of mine, been helping him for many years now, but he's been super patient. Like, his last show was several years ago. And he's just focused on getting bigger. He won his last show and he was great at 185, but it's time to be a heavyweight. He's just going to skip the whole light heavy thing. And we've been watching, and like his cruise body weight, you know, when he's, you know, done a 16-week, you know, 200 milligram cruise after each cycle, because he's been doing a nice slow, you know, steady big breaks between cycles, that sort of thing. His cruise weight is, you know, it's 190, and then it's 200, and it's 205, and it's 210. And now he just finished a cruise, 3 years since his last show, I think. He just finished a cruise. The lightest he got was 240.
Huh. No kidding.
And now he's been back cranking for like a couple weeks, and he's 250 now. It's like,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like, and just the accumulation by being patient and consistent, you know, and he started a business and he had a kid and he did all this other stuff during that time while he accumulated mass. And that's the name of the game. Name of the game.
I love when you have those exact things, because isn't it funny? You'll have an athlete who knows that, but when they live it and see their pictures, they're like, it really is that simple. Because we don't, I mean, I didn't want to believe that either.
Give credit to it.
Yeah, what's his name, by the way? What's
his name? Morgan.
We should publicize this.
He's Morgan Sharp.
Yeah, he's a freak.
He's that pump. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm shocked to hear that he hasn't competed forever, because he's a pro. He's going to be a pro. I mean, he's not.
I mean, he's got the mass. So let's just get some more mass on there. So
just add more. Just add more, Morgan. I know you're already not human, but let's take it further.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another good one for you guys. When you deload, is it better to lower your weight or keep the same weight, just lower sets? Talking about weight that you're using, not your body weight.
To me, that depends on why you're deloading. If you're deloading because you have like joint pain or something, then I would reduce load, definitely. And maybe you train easy, or you just do the movements with warm-up weights or something like that for your deload. And you're, because, we know now that like there's a lot of things. I mean, obviously certain types of injuries you have to stop, like don't lift anything, right? But then there's other types of injuries now that we found keeping them moving is actually part of rehabbing them and getting them healthy. So you don't actually stop. You just have to like
adjust.
Make adjustments. So it depends. But if you're taking a break because you're trying to just, hyper recover or something, then you could do a lot of different things. And one of the things you could do is just do fewer working sets, but with your normal weights. Like you could also deload with just reducing volume that way. So instead of doing 2 working sets per exercise, say, you just do 1, and then maybe you don't go past failure on it. So you just go to like the failure rep for 1 set. You're still using the same poundages, but you're reducing the stress, the overall load on the body, total volume, your recovery requirements, all that stuff is having a huge break. But you're still using the same weights. So there's lots of different ways to do it. It just depends on why are you deloading.
Agreed. So Scott, what do you think with that?
I have a hard time. I'll tell you what, I'm going to speak personally. I have a really hard time if I need to deload. Now, and also I'll tell you that I hadn't really needed to deload until the last few years. I feel like I've pushed the weights heavier to the point where now it's become necessary. In the past, I feel like I had used more or less, the same weights, trying to squeeze harder, we did like really long workouts in the past, and the intensity of a 3.5 hour leg day, there's no particular moment that's like, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's just like,
it's just overall a hard, grueling thing to do.
Yeah. But getting more into, push pull legs, I found when I need to deload, I can't do like the reps in reserve thing very well. Like when I get, maybe it's my ability to gauge when I need a deload, but I'll lift the heaviest thing in my life. And if I need to back off the next workout, I have to go lighter. Like I can't pick up that same weight again. Just the stress of picking that weight up, like taxes like my central nervous system. I need to back it off. So I'd rather go, for me, a deload would be going to like higher reps, something I could control, and probably not like going quite to that same level of intensity, like not going beyond failure with it. But yeah, I think for me, a deload is like getting a pump more, focusing on that. If my best dumbbell incline press was with the 125s, then I would say a nice deload for me would be like, we're going to kick up the 95s. And instead of doing 1 set and a back off set, I'm just going to do 3 straight sets with it. Something like that.
Right. And maybe it's 3 sets of 10 where it's not really to failure, but you get some volume. Yeah. That's cool. That's a good way to do it.
I think what I love is, I think so much of it too is personal. I know from when I was really getting into DC and Dante was watching everything I do, we would do, the deload portion on the training, and I sucked at it because I just am not disciplined. I would go to the gym with a plan to deload, and then I'd feel good. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I can't waste a feel good day.
Yeah.
I'll pick some shit up. So I finally just reached out to him. I'm like, listen, I've done everything you ever told me, but I'm not good at this. Can I just not train for a week? And he's like, yeah, don't go to the gym. Because it would be like my body's smoked, and I'd take a day, and then the next day I'd come in, I'm like, ooh. Well, maybe we'll see what we can do with 6 plates today on the squat. Like, and you're thinking, better than to do it, but I was too young and it was too fun to train. So what I found my sweet spot actually was that. And then the first week, so I would do it for 2 weeks. 1 week I wouldn't train at all. The next week I would just get my body used to moving again, because now I hadn't used it at all. So that I was almost priming the pump for that next week to really just dive back in full speed. Because I always laugh. I'm like, I was the least disciplined person when it came to deloading, because I'm like, but this is fun. It's not fun to squeeze. That's gay.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Shit. Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with the actual gay. Sorry, I've offended people.
No, that's the Seinfeld reference. The classic line.
It's not what I meant.
They already covered this. Seinfeld already handled this.
Thanks. Okay. We just pass up a link to that episode. That'd be great.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question?
Yes, I love when you do this.
All right. This is something I don't think I've ever heard on this show before, and I don't know the answer to it.
No, I've never.
Either you
it's okay. It's big enough that I've never gotten a complaint. It's small enough that I still get in.
Can't believe we're going here.
All right. Either you guys can take this one, or you're welcome to both take it. How did you guys meet?
I know the actual meeting was in England, right?
Yeah, at Temple Gym.
Yes,
we met at Dorian's Temple Gym.
You're kidding me. Why did we not have this story on here already?
We met in the funniest place for us to possibly met.
It made perfect sense.
You were bonded together from that moment.
Yeah, I met.
Yeah,
Dusty
that was my first trip to Temple. Also,
I knew, and mine as well.
Oh,
so
it was. I didn't know that.
I knew Dusty was going to be there because I knew he was going with Jose. And I don't remember why I knew that, or if I saw Jose, or what the fuck happened. But for some reason, I knew that you guys were going to Temple the same day. Because, and a lot of other people were too. It wasn't like it was just us. Right. It was Body Power. So there's a bunch of people making the slug on Thursday. So the trick is you had to go Thursday because not everybody was there yet, right? Mm-hmm. So you could actually go train. But if you went Friday, it was like, forget about it, right? So, so I was like, I got to go Thursday, and me and all the mutant guys were on our way down there with Dino.
Nice.
And Dino's like, I'll take you down. I'll, make sure Dawes fucking treats you right and all this stuff, right? So Dino takes us, and I walk in, and I'm kind of doing the self tour of the place, As soon as I walk around to the leg room, and there's Dusty and Jose doing hack squats. Yep. And that was the first time I met Dusty, but Dusty and I already knew each other kind of because of the boards. I knew who Dusty Hanshaw was, Dusty 08 Hanshaw or whatever his signature. What was your board signature? Was it the same?
Same that I do on my thing now.
Yeah, so I already knew kind of knew Dusty in a way, and then I knew Jose in a way. So it was like, oh hey, it was kind of right away friends. And then I remember at the Olympia that year, you were walking through the crowd, and I for some reason I felt compelled to stop you and say, hey, sorry about your dog, because one of your dogs had passed away.
Yeah.
And I remember you were shocked. You looked shocked that I was saying sorry about your dog. And then I was like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have brought it up again, because he was having a good day. And then I said sorry about your dog. But that was kind of when we were first getting to know each other.
I think that's you definitely are. And I think that's what I loved about prior to social media being what it is today, between the boards and YouTube as well, you would find out back when I was kind of getting started that people knew who you were.
Yeah.
Because Scott, you'll love this. So I'm at the Olympia one year. I'm at the gas booth just like looking to buy some stuff. And all of a sudden I hear this English accent behind me go, Dusty. And I turn around and it's Flex Lewis, who I've never met in my entire life. And he's like, I fucking love your YouTube channel. And I'm like,
that's cool.
I remember, because obviously now I've known Flex for forever, but I remember like he left and I looked at my wife and I was like, why does Flex Lewis know who I am?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
I have to add something here for you, Dusty.
Yeah.
I watched Flex's interview with Fouad. And Flex was specifically mentioning, he's like, yeah, you know, I've always been a fan of bodybuilding. I've always been inspired by the other guys. I've always watched the channels of the guys that I think were hardcore. And he listed some guys, and he listed you. He said, you know, you got this guy, and you got this guy, and you got Dusty, and you got these guys that are really training. And he like specifically mentioned you, and I thought, fuck, I make sure Dusty knows about that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, it was and is still, because it's funny. Like I'll message him. Like last year before the Olympia prep, he sent me a text message. He's like, hey, make sure you got a lot of videos getting loaded, because I'm about to be doing a ton of cardio.
Yeah,
I'm like, Flex, I only do this so you have something to be entertained by before you win another Olympia.
Yeah.
So, but no, I remember that because that was when I met you and Dino, and Dino is such a quiet guy that you just can't understand, Scott. Like we're doing hacks, and
just screaming.
When I go to a gym, I just train. Like Ron and I are the same. Like it doesn't matter where we are or how dead we are. Once we walk into the gym, we're only there to be selfish and have fun by ourselves. Like no one else is there.
Yeah.
So I'm just blasting on the hack squat, and all of a sudden I hear this guy yelling at me. I mean, screaming at me, and I just keep going, like whatever.
Dino feels very at home at Dorian's gym.
Yeah, so I get up from this set, and this guy who I don't know who he is smacks me in the back and goes, "That's fucking bodybuilding," and walks off. And I'm like,
"Yeah, it's funny.
What is that?" Like, and I didn't know him until Ron took me to his gym 2 years later that I actually met, and I remember I saw him, and I'm like, I know this crazy bastard.
Yeah.
He yelled at me the first time we met for like a minute and a half straight.
Yep. Yeah, that's how we met, Scott. That's a story.
It's good.
Story.
That's a good one. It was a good start. You guys had a lot of history since then. So I feel like that would be fun to kind of dig through that at some point.
We're also the two worst at pictures, because you have the only 2 or 3 pictures that we actually have together.
Yeah.
And we traveled for 5 years on the same team, and we have 3 pictures.
The listeners don't realize that. Like when we started the show, I was like, all right, guys, here's what we'll do. Get me a bunch of like all the pictures you guys have ever taken, and that way I'll have a bunch of different stuff we can use for thumbnails. And then I get a text with like 2 pictures.
This is what we have.
Hey, you know, the funny thing is when you spend time with people that are like, you know, I find when I'm spending time with like my real friends, I forget. Like we have to like do it at the very end. Like we're about to leave. Like yesterday I went for lunch with a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And we sat there and chatted for 2 hours and ate lunch and had a bunch of laughs. And we were like literally already paid the bill and we were about to get up.
Yeah.
And she's like, shit, we should get a picture. I mean, I only see you every 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck. So we like pull out our phone and take a selfie.
But you almost didn't.
You almost didn't. And like I do that all the time with people. I'll go and hang out for lunch and you're driving away and you're like, we didn't even take a fucking picture. You know, but I come from that generation where we didn't take pictures of everything. It's still not ingrained in my mind. It's something I haven't totally like, you know, I don't feel like I have to take a picture of every single thing, and I forget.
Yeah.
I think you're right though. You nailed it. Is when you're with the people who are like friends, like it's the same, Scott. If you said to me, send me your pictures with you and Jose, I'd be like, shit.
You have a couple. Some good ones.
Like I think
and they all have
I4
shirts on.
Yeah, and they've been
have I4 shirts on in almost all of them.
But I can get you many videos, because anything time someone else is responsible for us, there's footage. Yeah. But picture, not so much. I mean, dude, I just saw him at the Universe, whenever that was, a month and a half ago, and it was so funny. I get in the car and I'm driving, and I'm like, ah, shit, I did it again. Like, we talked for 45 minutes. All right, dude, see ya.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
So it's the nature of our our age, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. What else you got, Dusty? Let's do one more.
All right, perfect. We got to make this a good one here.
If we do one more, we'll round out, kind of round out the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, we'll be right about perfect. Dun, dun, dun. No, man, wait. No. Boom. I want it to be a solid one. I have a bunch of people that, by the way, put up questions with no question. I don't know what that means. Oh, here's a guy mocking me. That's good. This guy actually said, I assume he's mocking me because if not, he has bad taste. He says, "You're the most fashionable lifter I follow. Can I have some of your hand-me-downs?" I'm like, I'm the most ghetto lifter you follow. The only nice stuff I have, Jordan gave me. I was wearing pants yesterday that I think are older than the 2 daughters that live in this house. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. This is actually a good one. Well, it's an easy one, but I want to hit it because it's good. Tips on sticking to a diet when the weakness kicks in.
Ooh.
What do you got, Scott? I loved your reaction. I want to hear this.
Yeah.
It'll give you guys a chance to think of some ideas. I'll tell you what. When the weakness, all of that, hunger, weakness, like if you're serious, okay, and I'll tell you this. I have never been a guy who was the size of a Dusty Hanshaw or a Ron Partlow. So if I'm going to a show and I expect that there is going to be really big guys there, I mean, the only thing I can really do super, super well is be fucking peeled out of my mind. That's like what I'm good at. And if I'm going to do that, it's going to take being weaker. It's going to take being hungry. And when I feel those things, I've heard other people say this, that's where I know, like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly the way this should feel right now. You know, I want that. I welcome that. It doesn't concern me at all.
Right. Love that. What about you, Ron?
I just tell people you have to sort out what you're trying to accomplish and what you actually, like, what's your vision for your physique? You know, like for me, getting strided glutes was always an absolute obsession because it was so hard for me to do. Like my glutes didn't come in easy. It wasn't like I was just dieting. I'm like, oh, my abs are coming. Oh yeah, my glutes are coming. Oh yeah, my legs are coming. It wasn't like that. It was like, okay, my whole body's fucking peeled and I'm on 50 carbs a day and I still have to diet my glutes in. Right. So I just didn't want to be the guy that didn't work hard enough. It was just, you know, it's like, what are you hungry for? Are you hungry to win or are you hungry for a donut? You know, and you have to just try to remind yourself of what you're actually hungry for.
Right.
You know, and I understand that I was sort of in a position because of the choices I made where I was competing to win.
Right.
And some people are competing for other reasons. So maybe it makes those things more difficult for them. I don't know. But my mindset was like, these guys are all technically better than me. Because I always told myself, I always gave them the advantage genetically just so I could like almost force myself to have to stay more disciplined. So I would always say, Ron, you're the least talented guy that's going. You can't have that fucking donut. You're the least fucking talented.
Right. No, I think there's 2 things that I would say to this beyond what you guys said, or I guess in another direction. The first thing that I would say is, okay, how long is that cookie or that donut or even that whole meal going to satisfy you? How many minutes?
Yeah.
30 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 minutes. You won't feel better. Like if you're truly peeled, it takes a week before you start to feel normal again. You ever do a show and you try to go back to the gym and you're terrible still because your body's still smoked? You've been eating for 3 days.
Yeah.
So a cookie's not going to put you back. You're not going to feel better. You're going to taste it for a second and then you're going to have regret. That's the first thing I would say is understand that you won't feel better, and that helps. Because if you're exhausted and that's the reason you're craving, that's one thing. The flavor won't be enough for the regret. And then the big thing, which I learned when I was playing hockey, I had a coach that used to preach, mistakes happen, but they need to be mistakes that require talent. Don't make a mistake that doesn't require talent. So not eating a cookie anyone can do that.
Okay.
You not being able to get crazy quad sweep like some other guy, that's just genetic. Like there's nothing you could do. Or if a guy's a faster skater than you, but you go as hard as you can, okay, well, he beat you because he's better. There's nothing you can do about that. But choosing to not try your hardest if you're playing hockey or to eat a meal, that's a choice. You made a decision to lessen yourself, and that's unacceptable. So, and I approach that in life. Like everything should be that way. There's no reason to do anything that's detrimental that doesn't require talent. You know, it's kind of like, you know, answering your emails within the time that you say you will. Like, that doesn't require talent. Just get it done. There's no excuse. So I've always looked at that. Like when people tell me they've cheated on their diet, I try to step out of my own body because I really don't understand. I'm like, why? Like I remember, don't get it.
Yeah. I remember like one of my earliest coach, actually, Brian, my old coach that helped me win a show back in the 90s. I remember I was at his house once and he's like, yeah, you know, people will tell you that this might not matter and that might not matter. And like, you know, a few bites of rice might not matter and a spoonful of oatmeal that might not matter. But I've seen enough trophies handed out that I know otherwise.
Was that Brian, the coach that you told us about on Blood, Sweat, and Gear?
Brian Logue, yeah. And I mean, this is a guy that like saw 100 shows, right?
Yeah.
And his wife was a pro bodybuilder all through in the 80s and or all through the 90s, you know. So they like went to, you know, they were all over the place. And so it was just funny. He's like, some people say certain things don't matter, but I've seen enough trophies handed out that I know otherwise. And I just thought, yeah, you know. And that's that whole like you know, other people might not know, but you know. And how does that affect you?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
You don't want to ever do anything. And it's really hard because we all do it in different ways. We all do things that for even a second make you feel like a loser. You know, when you make a decision, and for like a minute afterwards, you're like, oh, it was kind of a loser thing to do. You know what I mean? Like we've all had a moment where we've done something like that. And I think there's nothing more devastating than making yourself feel like a loser, even if it's for a short period of time. And we really got to hold ourselves to a standard where we don't make ourselves feel like we've done something that's like a loser move. You know?
I agree.
Yeah.
I like
it's
that.
A challenge in
the
life.
Standard that you said is beautiful because that's the biggest thing is I think you should hold yourself to a standard higher than anyone else could hold you to. Then you're good to go.
Right.
You know, so I'm glad you guys brought those in because it is difficult because, you know, I mean, you know, part of coaching, you guys both do it is you do have to, you can't coach everyone the way you are. And I do know that cookie didn't kill you.
Right.
So it's like, it is quote unquote fine, but it's also not because I'm disgusted enough in the head that I could see myself like eating a meal I didn't eat and then getting second. And even though I know that guy would have beat me either way, still being pissed that I ate that meal.
It's like if you're dating a girl and she gives another guy a hand job, even if it's just for a minute. It was just 1 minute of a hand job, but it just affects everything else. You know, now like every time we go out for dinner and I'm going to think that hand job, man, that was a loser move. You know?
Ron, I have to say this because I don't know that everyone watches all your stories, but I died. We were in Charlotte last week, and you were answering your Q&A after the show, and I laughed so hard that I had to share it with the group when a guy said, when you're not in a relationship and you need to shave your entire body, what do you do? And Ron goes, well, most of the spots you can reach yourself. And as far as like your back and stuff, just have one of the girls you're sleeping with do it. And I just laughed and I said, I love this because Ron doesn't understand that most men when they're single means they're very, very alone. I laughed.
That's no good. That's no good. You got to sign somebody up. If you're single, you should have a whole team. I mean, you got a massage therapist, right? You got a dentist. You got someone who cuts your hair. I mean, you're single. You're not incapable of setting up a structure in your life.
This doesn't require talent either. Get this done. I laughed hard enough that I actually waited because we were doing something. Like later in the night, I went back to your stories. I'm like, you got to watch this. This is funny.
That's funny.
You know something's good when you have to share it. You're like, well, I got to remember.
Oh, well, I'm happy. I'm happy that I connected with people who found the situation, relatable.
What made it funny was when I watched it, I was like, well, that's obvious. Like my brain was like, someone's going to be naked with you. You're fine.
Yeah, like whoever you're fucking, just get them to do it. I don't understand what's the problem. Yeah.
This seems very obvious. You thought your mother? What are you doing?
Yeah. Okay.
Good stuff.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on.
100 episodes. That's a great note to end on. How are we still here?
100 episodes. I'm down to 5%. I made it.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks everyone for watching the show, supporting us. Like, share, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, all that stuff. Thanks Dusty for putting up with me for 2 years and just
publicly.
Yeah, and thanks to Scott for all you've done to help us out with things like
my pleasure.
The production of the show, and I know we've been through a lot. We've had some challenges, and we're real happy to still be here and getting support from the people watching. So that's important. Anything you want to say, Scott? Wrap up episode 100.
No, I'm just excited to see where things go next. To see, to see how things evolve from here. And I'm glad that we're all here. You know what I'm saying? A lot of shit has gone down for all of us in the past couple of years. So glad to be here, and I'm excited that bodybuilding is happening, and I look forward. Like I feel like the Olympia is going to be here in no time, so we're going to be talking about that soon.
Both you guys almost died.
I know, right?
I was literally just thinking the same thing. I'm like,
you had like bad COVID where it could have gone worse.
Oh yeah,
you were like fucked up.
I'm still not okay. Like I'm still recovering. So yeah,
like you got the hammer COVID that you don't want to get, and then Dusty had a little food incident there, and it was a very, very crazy year. So I was sort of like, by the end of this, I've been like, oh fuck, like what's gonna. I'm being very careful with my food. And,
He chooses food.
Like I'm next.
He double washes his hands.
Yeah. So no, I'm just happy we're all here. I couldn't do this by myself.
Well, you could do it without me, but you definitely couldn't do it without Scott. He's like, listen, what are you guys going to go down, Scott? I need you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.